Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another live edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We are coming at you at 8:33 p.m. on Sunday night, in the midst of 2 days off. I'd like to thank the basketball gods, aka the schedule makers, for that. And I am pleased to be joined by a young man, because everybody's young to me, who I didn't get a chance to see on Saturday night, but who I'm happy to see now. Benjy Ritholtz. Hello, sir.
Hello, John. Thanks for the little rib that I couldn't make it Saturday night. My bad. But
Listen,
honestly,
you're a
it
man
might
of
have
the
been
faith.
for the best. It might have been for the best because the curse was broken, as I hear.
So, I think I'm going to equate, yes, I'm going to equate you not being at the watch party as the reason that the Knicks beat the Washington Wizards. That's the responsible take for me right now.
With difficulty. They beat the Washington Wizards with difficulty. Must be added.
It must be added. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Tyler Kolek. We're going to talk about all of it. So can I start with a little anecdote?
I love your anecdotes.
I don't know if this anecdote's going to translate to making any semblance of sense into the week that we just had here in Knicksland, but I'm going to try because, I always got to give my effort. So, earlier today, I decided I was going to take a nap, as I often do. And I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. The dog woke me up early this morning. You don't have a dog, right?
No, this is a thrilling start, though. The start of your anecdote is I was going to take a nap.
Well,
But
here's the thing.
Electric anecdote thus far. Continue, please.
So the dog woke me up early this morning. I got to bed very late last night because of the watch party and assisted by a couple of delicious mezcal cocktails. Shout out to T Squared Social. And then I did, without getting into the boring details, because clearly everything else is thrilling. I had a busy day. We had to drive an hour out to Long Island, an hour back from Long Island, a lot of stuff. And it was just like the world was conspiring against me. So I'm like, I got to take this nap. And then I go to lay down and the house is crazy. And I needed to put in my earpods to try to fall asleep because I have like what is it? The sound, like the ocean sounds, like that app on my phone or whatever. And then just as I'm falling asleep, I get a blaring text alert from my phone letting me know that a text message is coming. Now, you may be asking, John, why wouldn't you put your phone on Do Not Disturb so as to get a good night's or a good afternoon's nap? I did, except the one person that is not on Do Not Disturb who goes past Do Not Disturb is my wife. And sure enough, it was a text thread that I was on with my wife and somebody else. And this person texted, and thus I got, or my wife texted that person back, and thus I got the alert. So I'm laying there. This is keeping me up, and then in that moment, I was like, the world is conspiring against me. This is horrible. This is the worst thing in the world. All I want to do is take a freaking nap, and I can't even do that properly. And I'm thinking of all of the reasons that I can't take a nap. And it made me think of the Knicks this week, because at times this week, it felt like everything was going haywire at once. And yet, if you take a step back, as I tried to do today, because I got up and eventually did get my nap, and I got up and then I did a little bit of writing. I'm like, well, is it everything conspiring against me, or can I just not properly use a telephone? Or they don't call it a telephone anymore, right? A cell phone. And I landed on that much more simplified version. You're looking at me with a look of just absolute abject horror, which means that the story had its intended effect. So here's what I bring to you, Benjy. There's been a lot of conversation this week. Some good, some bad, mostly bad, but a lot of absolute hand-wringing, a lot of pearl clutching. And the more I thought about it today as I was preparing for this episode, I'm like, where are we at really? Did anything really, and I am kind of picking up on DJ's monologue from last night, like, has anything really changed? Or is this just, it's March, we're at 70 games played, and it's just like it's been a long season. You know, you get what I'm going for here?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect you to go there in that particular way, with that particular narrative.
You never know where my nap stories are going to end.
Do you happen to also, like, as part of that painstakingly detailed morning routine that you just provided, do you happen to use
It's the afternoon
Saratoga?
routine. Thank you.
Do you happen to use Saratoga sparkling water and rub some banana peel on your face?
I don't get that reference, but that's
Damn. All right, hopefully many of the people watching get the reference. It's a viral video. You'll check it out later. But there's a guy on Twitter who, or I don't know what platform was. He's this fitness influencer, and he goes like minute by minute of his morning routine. And like, he films it in all these crazy ways. Like the idea that he filmed himself from like various angles going through this morning routine. He claims it starts at like 3:30 and he does push-ups. And like what has gone viral about this is that he splashes his face in Saratoga sparkling water. Like he takes the sparkling water, several bottles, and he pours it into a bowl of ice. And then he just washes his face with the sparkling water. That's how he arouses himself in the morning. After which he, at some point during the day, I think this was probably at like 7:30 after push-ups, diving in a pool that you weren't supposed to dive in, allegedly, and various other things that he does. He ripped a piece of tape off his crazy situation. Another thing that he does is he rubs banana peel after eating the banana, rubs the banana peel on his face.
Is it a real thing?
No, it's definitely not a real thing, but it's how he wants to present himself.
Okay.
It is the craziest video after. I recommend you watch it. I'm sure most people in this that are watching this now have watched it, but you should definitely take a peek because it is truly fantastic entertainment. And I was just wondering if that was also included in the detailed routine you provided there to get us to the point at which I can respond to your prompt. So I will do that now without further ado. Do we learn anything new? I think there's a part of this entire post All-Star break saga that is a whole lot, much ado about nothing. Much ado about nothing. That's good. I think a team that's played as many games as they have and as many minutes as they have collectively as individuals, for better or for worse, they've been so healthy that they've played a lot. And a 5-game when the All-Star break ended, a 5-game cushion between 3-2 and 3-4, essentially locked into the seed and locked into the matchups. Now, maybe we can talk about if that's at risk. I still don't really think so, but you know, the stakes were lacking over the last 20 games of the season.
I'll look it up how many games it's been since the All-Star break, but whereabouts?
I'm saying no, from the All-Star break to the end of the season.
Oh,
however many games that is.
I think about 28 or 30, but yeah.
Yeah, so like 30. So there was always an element of these final 28 games or whatever it is that I don't think can be taken with full seriousness. And I don't think, I think there's something within the players that happens, the team dynamic, all of it. And I there is some of that. And I don't think once Jalen Brunson went down, certainly, I'm not sure that was only exacerbated. We're like, what are we really learning? Well, the team needs Jalen Brunson. We know they need Jalen Brunson. Anyone who was saying they didn't need Jalen Brunson was a total nincompoop. And we know that he's the only true ball handler in the rotation, like the natural true ball handler in the rotation. Like, obviously it's going to be super important for him to be there as a top 10 player in the NBA. And so to me, what I transitioned to once he got hurt was basically, well, what can we learn about each player that has to maybe pick up the slack, and can they do so? And what kind of actions are we running? And can that translate once he gets back? And I think there's what to pick apart and talk about there. But have we learned anything about like the ceiling of this team based on this stretch of games? No, I don't think we have. I don't think we have
either. And that's kind of where I landed on. And I think what you just said, which is that they emerged from the All-Star break probably like with the mentality of like, okay, well, can we add one asterisk to what you just said?
Of course.
Because we should recall that after a respite against the Bulls? Yeah, the Bulls was the first game after the All-Star break. The Hawks was the last game before the All-Star break. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
After that Bulls game, the first 2 games after that were obviously against Cleveland and Boston. I wonder if after those two games went down like they did, there was a little bit of like air out of the balloon with the team.
And I think that's right. And when I say All-Star break, I mean inclusive of those two games, because I've tweeted this before, and it's been my take throughout. Is like everything had been established at that point. You know who you're not. You're basically as good or better than everybody else. They can beat anybody else. They've shown it. They can't beat those teams right now. There are no seed stakes. And so something within a team, like over a course of an 82 game season, when you take that's already grueling enough as it is, and difficult to bring your A game every single night. And then you tack onto that the fact that they all know that there aren't any like legitimately important stakes to the last 28 games of the regular season, or 26, let's say, after the Boston game. It's like, what are we doing here? And how do we maintain the sharpest focus that we need to? I absolutely think that's a big part of the story here as we go down the stretch.
Yeah. And so here they are. So this week, we should say it was a 2-2 week. Started with a win. Pretty impressive win. A fun win, dare I say. And ended with a win that was less fun. And then some stuff happened in between. And overall, without Jalen Brunson, they are now 4-4 during this stretch. If you want to tack on the one win that they had earlier this season against the Utah Jazz without Jalen Brunson, they're 5-4. One thing I was thinking of in terms of contrasting it, like Denver is actually playing right now as we're recording this. They're engaged in a bit of a tussle with the Houston Rockets. But going into this game, Denver is 3-5 without Nikola Jokic on the year, and with a pretty rough scoring margin. Meanwhile, Knicks 5-4 with a I think I did the math earlier today. It's like plus 40 something, whatever it is. It looks like the Nuggets are going to get a win. So, but like 5-4 without Jalen Brunson, I think most people would argue is pretty good, even against a light schedule. You're shaking your head a little bit.
I think the contrast with Denver is everyone understands how essential to everything Denver does. Like Nikola Jokic is everything, and everyone knows it. And I think with the Knicks, maybe we should know it, but also I think rightfully there's a expectation that with the depth of fringe all-star to all-star players that they've now built around him, and the assets that they've given up in order to procure that talent, that maybe it should be better than that. And I think especially against the schedule, as you mentioned, like I think that's fair. And I think that the takeaway from those two losses, while with the caveat of everything that we've already said in terms of like the lack of stakes and how important it is in terms of like the outlook on this team, which I don't think is tremendously important, but I want to say though that with the talent that they've built around Brunson and the assets they've given up, the expectation from those guys, I think, is fairly that you can salvage a game from the tankalicious Hornets and Spurs on a back-to-back. And again, the schedule we can talk about, which does play a role. The players say it, you should believe it. Like Josh Hart doesn't just say things because he wants to say them. Like they're tired. I believe them that they're tired. And yet I still think that they need to salvage one of those games. And they didn't just lose them, they got crushed, basically. So yeah, it's nuanced. There's a lot to it, but what it reflects upon those guys and their inability to carry a team to a win like that, I think is real. I think
I agree with you. I 100% think it's real. But like you said at the start, and I think this is for me where I'm having trouble like processing where the team is at right now, because on one hand, everything you just said, I agree with. It's real. What like the underwhelming nature of the other players on the roster in these games. But by the same token, what you said earlier is true, which is that without Brunson, what really matters about anything? Like, he is the team, he is the franchise, he is the most important player on the court. damn well better believe he is the most important player off the court at this point. I don't think there's any question about that. And so it's like, I don't like, it does matter, but it doesn't matter. And that's the part that is I am personally struggling to process right now. And I don't know if there's a great answer.
I'm trying to think of an example over, let's say we get to next season and this is the roster. And Jalen Brunson, which happens, goes down for 40 games, 35.
Yeah, well.
And the season now hinges upon your ability to perform without him. Like, what seed can you get? Can you actually give yourself a legitimate shot in the playoffs based on the matchups that you're going to get? So there is relevance to we're building this roster around Jalen Brunson, and you're not winning the championship without him. We know that. But you might have to get through a portion of regular season without him. I hope not. I hope he stays healthy for the rest of his career. But, as we see, it happens. It happens to be this season. Maybe fortunately, it happens to be this season that their seed was basically determined by the time he got hurt, right? But that's not necessarily the case if it happens again. And you do have to be able to kind of deal with that. The way that the Knicks dealt with it, say when Julius Randle got hurt last season. So that's where I think it might come in for this season in terms of like their ceiling. No, not particularly important.
One more thing, and then we're going to get to Kolek.
Yeah.
I've been putting, it's what everybody wants to hear about. So we got to make them wait for it a little bit. That's what good content is, right? You got to make them wait for the thing they all want. At least a little bit. Hence the AirPod. Sorry.
Riveting.
I thought listen, you should have been me in that moment. I was really I was going through it. I really was. And then I was like, I'm going to use this on the pod. That's what's going to happen here. And no one was going to talk me out of it. Not that I told anybody I was going to do that. What I like talking about the blame pie occasionally when things are not going well. And again, I don't know that we need to do a blame pie, but listen, you've been writing damn eloquently, if I do say so myself, in your grade books for Patreon. About these games and about where certain guys have fallen short, and you're very, to use your word, nuanced and detailed. Is there a culprit for you that stands out about for in terms of the, again, underwhelming nature of some of the performances without Jalen since he has gone down, or do you think it is more or less equally divvied up between different parties?
It's a hard question. I found myself most underwhelmed with Mikal Bridges as the guy who is most suited to take a role of like, all right, listen, our by far most dominant pick and roll player is out. How do we generate offense? Like Cat is a play finisher more than a play starter. And
he's been good at that recently.
And he's mostly done his job offensively. Like it's uglier without Brunson. He has to just force a lot of contact and will his way to the foul line, post up a lot, which I think you're seeing. We talk about like post him up more. You see that there's a little bit of diminishing returns when you post him up a bunch of times with the turnovers, with he falls down, he complains about fouls, what happens on the other end when that happens. He's mostly done his job. He's been fairly efficient, if not his peak efficiency that he usually reaches. I think that's fair without your ball handler. And so like Mikal being the next guy that should be stepping up, and I post the Portland explosion, just underwhelming. Not terrible, but you need him to become a star. He's supposed to be a guy that can, when you need him to, recast himself as a star. And there have really been very few games. Now there have been explosion games, and it has happened 4 or 5 times this season, but it doesn't happen consistently enough. And I think that has to do a lot with his shot diet, his inability to get deep into the paint, what that means about his playmaking abilities or lack thereof, because he's not deep in the paint. Like what shots is he creating for others? His general dislike of contact this season, which gets into the fact that he doesn't get deep into the paint. And you look at like that third quarter against the Wizards. When
I was about to go there.
Like some of just inability to get loose balls, ability to get knocked off his spot that leads to turnovers a lot. Like his drives, when he gets bumped and now he is leaving his feet fading out of bounds and he just throws a nothing pass. And it's, I don't know what it is. It's the first sign under the Tibbs era, the first player that I have in my mind, and I know it's an evocative word. I don't like to use it very often, but there's a softness at times to his game that I think is very frustrating. I find very frustrating, and it limits him because he doesn't play through that stuff. You have to play through contact to be great in this league. It's not always going to be easy. Maybe the only exception to this is Kevin Durant, because he can basically shoot around and over everybody all the time. And I think there's even still an argument. I think in his prime, he did fight through contact more. And I think now it's more just like jump shooting. But
like 38 years old or whatever.
It just limits your ability to be a star in the league. You have to play through and fight through contact and make people pay for it. And he doesn't do it. And that has been, to me, I don't think he gets all the blame. Nobody has shot well. Deuce didn't step up offensively. OG didn't step up offensively until in the Washington game, but the 2 losses, he was terrible offensively, missed a lot of open shots against Charlotte that he needed to make. So like there's blame to go around. Josh Hart continues to struggle. Blame to go all around. Tibbs, but we'll talk about, I'm sure. But to me, the guy who needed to step up the most was Bridges, and he's fallen short. And that's not the first time we've said that this year.
I got a Macau stat for you when we get through this ad read. But first, a quick word from our friends at Factor. Listeners of the show know about Factor because I've been talking about it, I think, for a couple of weeks now, and I have been very, very pleased to do so. Benjy, you, because you have children, you know about the stresses that could come during dinner time in the household, do you not?
Do I ever? Do I ever?
Exactly. Well, Factor is here to eliminate all of those stresses in one felt swoop with one box that shows up like a magical little goodie bag in front of your door each and every week. It just makes dinner time or lunchtime or breakfast time, if that's your gist. It makes it much easier. It takes the thought process out because it gives you the exact meals that you want. They taste great. They fit with your diet, whatever your diet may be. And best of all, if you have, a kid you got to put in the bath, and you got another kid who you got to do homework with, and you have a dog that won't shut up, it's 2 minutes in the microwave, and that is it. You are done. Not that I'm speaking from experience or anything like that. And as I said, best of all, it is delicious. So if you would like to eat smart with Factor, you can get started at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast and use code Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. You will not regret your decision. I keep touting them because really the stuff is good and you'll feel good about yourself after you eat it. Unlike most of the crap that we tend to ingest as we grow older and, make terrible decisions. Well, I'm talking like, you're looking at me like I have 10 heads. I'm talking about like takeout pizza.
Sparkling water and bananas. That's what I recommend.
I'm not going to try the banana peel thing, but like it's I just want to know why.
It's an outrageous situation. It's a must view. It's really a must view. It's a must view.
Okay.
As soon as you get off here, let me just say. So my youngest child is a 1.5.
Watch the video and now does this every morning. Continue.
God no, he does rub his face in banana peels because he's a monster. But so he has this thing. See, I can't enjoy Factor because I don't think there's a kosher part of Factor. Maybe there is, and I don't know about it. But as far as I know, they don't do kosher food. However, I was thinking about the fact that I wish I had Factor, because what often happens to me is I'll be dealing with dinner with the other kids.
Yeah.
Because I have too many. And
that's your choice.
The youngest is in his high chair with like, who knows what, a muffin, let's say, whatever it is. And I'm futzing over there in the corner making something else. And I'll turn around and this kid has the greatest arm for a 1.5-year-old I've ever seen. This kid is a phenom. He's a phenom. I'm convinced. He's also very cute. But what he does now, as I'm turning around futzing away in the corner, is whatever he's holding is chucked
It's gone.
I'm not talking about like from the high chair to the kitchen table. This thing is in the dining room. He's throwing this thing 30 feet. The muffin is flying across the room and splattering everywhere. And if I had Factor and whatever I was doing for the other kid was 2 minutes,
yeah,
I would be able to monitor the situation.
Yes, you need it.
So for those who might have a 1.5-year-old who has a Nolan Ryan in the making, you too should have Factor.
Yes, shout out to Factor. A Nolan Ryan in the making, or perhaps Benji Riddles, a Tyler Kolek in the making. You see what I did? You see what I did there. I'll save the Bridges stat for later because Bridges is going to come up again. Okay, we finally got it. We finally got what many fans, have been clamoring for. I mean, since the preseason, really, because he looked good in the preseason. I thought. I think we were all pretty impressed with what we saw, and the Knicks have. And maybe this is a talking point. Maybe this is where we should start. I was going to say the Knicks have not really had a need for Tyler Kolek because Jalen Brunson is playing at a all NBA, first or second team caliber level. Or did I said Jalen Brunson, right? Yeah. I wanted to make sure I didn't say Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne has been a very good NBA backup. And I was saying to somebody at the watch party that I would challenge you to find 5 guys that were signed for the minimum this past summer that have given more bang for the buck than Cameron Payne has given the Knicks this season for what he was asked to do. And I actually don't even think that's a particularly controversial statement. So, and then when you throw in the fact that Deuce McBride, who I think you said this before anybody, but it's kind of obviously caught on now, a wing in a point guard's body, but also can do, if you squint, can do like a couple of point guard things to keep you honest if you need for here and there, depending on who else is on the floor. So all of those things together, Tyler Kolek gets squeezed. But now, no Brunson. And now the other night, no Deuce, according to CP of Knicks Fan TV. Shout out to him. Maybe no Deuce for one more game, multiple other games. We don't know. So I'm just going to ask you, what'd you think of Tyler Kolek?
I think that Tyler Kolek, I'll read you a tweet that I wrote on, this was on October 15th, 2024.
Okay.
Some might say I'm prone to hyperbole. I try not to be hyperbolic.
You're not.
This is what I said. The thing about Kolek is he's one of the best passers I've ever watched. Now, that is maybe a little nuts, but I don't think it is, because if I've watched a ton of film on him, I've watched a bunch of his college games before once he was drafted here. I watched a lot of I watched all the summer league games. I watched some of the Westchester games. I have really tried to keep an eye on him, and obviously the minutes he got in the first half of the season, where he got to do it on the NBA level a little bit. He is truly a elite passer of the ball. It is a skill that he has that is amongst the best in basketball. I don't say that flippantly. I mean it. He is a tremendous passer of the basketball. Is that why he racked up 7 assists in the first half? Because he's a great passer? Some of them were less than impressive assists. I think that his presence on the floor, his vision, the way he hits people when they want it, where they want it, improves their odds of making the shot. I think that matters. I don't think that's a coincidence that he comes in and does that. And it's not to say there are a lot of great passers that didn't have great NBA careers. I think Ricky Rubio is one of the best passers I've ever watched. You need a certain level of scoring to allow that at the NBA level to translate into great passing. Like it doesn't work. Kendall Marshall, a name I'll throw at you, was a great passer. If you don't score at a requisite NBA level, it's not going to translate. And that's before we get into the defensive potential issues. Now, he did a good job in the first half defensively too, but there are the limitations. He has to work on the scoring, work on the defense. The passing is the real deal, man. The passing is the real deal. He is tremendous at passing the basketball. Like really special. So that's what I think.
I was wondering that was beautifully done, by the way. And I actually am going to push back on you about the quality of the assists. There was the one where he just basically tossed it to Might have been his second assist. OG at the top.
pump faked and then shot it. Yeah.
And that was it. The other 6, forgive me for not counting the one with a minute left to Precious Achiuwa. But the other 6 in the second quarter, I thought all of them were like, there was something that he did that made it happen, you know?
Yeah, I you know what Cameron Payne made a flip and joke about it post game where they asked him like, "What do you think of Tyler?" He's like, "Well, I wish Mikal made all the shots when I passed it to him." There was like a degree to which guys made shots when he passed it to them, and they had similar looks, and they didn't make them. You know, so that's what I'm really getting at. No, they're all good passes. They weren't like the most incredible assists, but they were good passes. And he reads the game. Actually, one of my favorite passes, and I'll put it. I haven't written the grade book yet from the Washington game, but I will, and I have it clipped already. It was not an assist, and it's in transition. He gets the ball, and man, you just see the processing that he is capable of because 2 or 3 Knicks run past him on the transition break. Karl-Anthony Towns is coming from behind, and he knows it. And he knows it right when he gets the ball. And that's the special vision that he has. It's like reading the play before it even happens. So he's letting guys run by, and then it's a flip back to Cat for a wide open transition 3, and he missed it. But that's what I'm talking about. It's he really is like, I love watching him play for this reason. I love great passers. I love guys who see the game that way, and he does. And he made a bunch of good passes. I mean, the cross court pass to Mikal was great vision, I thought.
Oh my god,
he made it was really like kind of like before it's there. And the Knicks don't have, for as good as the team is, they just don't have passers like that. I would actually probably consider it a weak point of the team is the lack of advanced playmaking on the roster. And they have good passers and they have guys who can make good passes when they see it, but they don't have guys who throw you open. And Tyler Kolek throws you open. And it's really cool to watch.
So I mostly because I get to talk to you and DJ and you get to I trust very much your instinct when it comes to this stuff. I've been very excited about Tyler Kolek. I was excited about him in the preseason. I was excited about him even before that in summer league. I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be a part of this team moving forward. The reason why I kind of threw a little cold water on the whole Kolek thing when it first came up a few weeks ago, and why I find myself struggling to get overly excited about it now is I just see no universe where barring injury to a core player, and I think that core player would need to be Jalen Brunson, and probably I don't even know who else it would have to be. I don't see any role any world where he is a playoff rotation player for this team
in the future or this season.
This year only, this year, and I am so all about this season right now, and I am kind of resigned. I'm like, we'll worry about the next year when we get to the summertime. And so like, I was trying to think today, I'm like, okay, what would have to happen? Because I think right now, if you were to project the Knicks postseason rotation, you would guess it's going to be the 5 starters. It's going to be Deuce off the bench as the 6th man, or if you want to put Mitch as the 6th man, but those are your 6th and 7th men in some order. And then my guess would be Campaign is like the 7th and a half guy. Now, I'll ask you, is there an argument for Kolek surpassing Campaign in the rotation for this year? And before I answer, DJ, I loved his the post-game show. I loved the monologue. I thought he hit on basically every point. The one thing I didn't hear, and if he mentioned it, I apologize. And one thing I didn't hear him mention, Campaign hit kind of an important shot in that game.
Yes,
when the wheels were, boy, the wheel couldn't see.
It was a deep 2, right? A step back 2, or
no? It was a 3. It was a 3, and it was a pull.
I'm thinking of a
pull up,
but I remember it was the run breaker. It was the run breaker.
It was the run breaker, and it had gotten to 4. And I don't know how you felt.
Crazy ass run.
When we were watching that at T Square and it got down to 4, I was like, holy shit, this is really a curse. And then Payne hit that shot, and it kind of like it calmed everything down, and they so, and I bring that up. What, you're laughing?
Well, it did stem the tide, and then a nice assist by Washington's coaching staff to be like, well, all right, that's enough. Out you come, Marcus Smart. You just made like 13 straight shots. Nope. This cannot happen. Rashawn Holmes, you've been dominating the game. Out. Let's put in you rookies and let's get crushed.
Holmes was the one. Did Holmes put back the free throw miss that nobody boxed out on? Or was that somebody else?
Put that back. I don't remember if that was him, but
I forget it was him.
Made a lot of plays.
Yeah. I've always liked Rashawn Holmes, and it's just he has never caught on anywhere in any significant way. Neither here nor there. So I bring up that shot not because of the shot itself, but because it's a freaking late March game against the Wizards that they probably would have won anyway. But like you've written about it so many times. His confidence to take those shots, and he's made enough of them this year. I know he's been slumping a little bit late. He's a feisty defender and the whole thing. I think that stuff has real value as a veteran who has been to the NBA Finals. So that's what I want to just say that before I throw it to you and ask you if you think there's a world where Kolek should be part of the rotation in the playoffs this year.
Just before I get there, like in terms of campaign, was great in the playoffs as recently as against the Knicks last season in certain games when he made a gazillion shots in a couple of those games. Like you're like, are you serious, campaign? You're just going to keep making these shots with your stupid closed form standing sideways? And he did.
Yeah.
Crazy. No, I don't think there's a world where Kolek should be in the rotation this playoffs. I will say, it is true. Like campaign's 3-point rate is important to this team, not just his makes. Like they can't get threes up, and he gets them up. Now I actually think so. I just looked since January 1st, he's at 34%. I'm sure if I cut that to like February 1st, it might be even worse than that. Like he has not been nearly as good in the second half making those shots as he was in the first. And that has hurt this team because they are, for better or for worse, very reliant on his 3-point shot. They don't get a lot. The starting lineup doesn't shoot threes. He comes in, he can get them up at crazy angles from far out, from above the break, which most guys don't on this team, as we know. And they are reliant on it to a large extent. So Kolek is not that guy in terms of 3-point value, in 3-point volume. Sorry. Now there might be a trade-off with Kolek where he'll create threes at a rate the campaign does not, and the Knicks probably need that too, which may be a next season thing more than a this season thing. But where I'm going to push back on what you said in terms of you're thinking about this season.
Yeah.
I feel like we've talked about this. You and me have talked about this. It's year one.
Yeah.
And the way the season's gone at this point, the championship is becoming farther and farther out of reach in some ways. Like I struggle to imagine at this point, unfortunately, hate to be the bearer of bad news. Hard for me to imagine them beating the Cavs and the Celtics in 2 back-to-back series. Just is. They have not been as good as those teams at any point, and I just don't see it. Maybe, but I don't see it. We've talked about them being locked into the seed since the All-Star break.
Yep.
What better time than these 28 games to start to understand what you may or may not have with Tyler Kolek going into next year when campaign's a free agent? He may have actually performed himself out of the minimum deal you gave him this year. He may not be available to you. And if he's not available to you, you're going to need another ball handler. And is Tyler Kolek capable of stepping into that role? And now I don't know that necessarily, although I may find out now in the next 5 games, but I didn't know that before. And to me, was it overplayed? Like, we need Kolek, Kolek will save us? Yes. I was thinking throughout, like, yeah, now is the time to see what you have here. If not now, then when? Lo achshav eimatai. There's a Talmudic phrase. If not now, then when? When would you get a look at this guy that was more valuable than in these games that, again, we talked about it a million times, don't really have stakes? So let me create stakes. The stakes are, what do I have in my rookie point guard who we know has a elite skill? And we know that there are potential issues. We know what they are. Can he work through them? How do we cover them up? Like that would have been nice information gathering to get, I think, over the last, certainly since Brunson got hurt. And they didn't go that direction.
Jeremy brought this up a few weeks ago, and I kind of poo-pooed it because I'm like, the team is ostensibly, again, maybe not actually competing for a championship this year. Development is not at the forefront of my mind. I think two things. One, part of the reason I said that, I think in the back of my mind, is I have such inherent trust in this front office that the fact that they clearly targeted Kolek and everything that we have heard from the organization this year, and also everything we've seen out of him at Westchester this year, which again, you've gone and watched some of those games in person, says to me, this is a player that is going to factor in prominently next year. And where I was going a minute ago is I have personally felt watching this team at times, especially the starting lineup, that there is maybe a little bit of an only one ball problem. What better way to solve that than a guy whose entire existence on the floor is to get everybody, like you said, is to get everybody else shots. And could that point guard maybe be a better fit for this roster, at least in a backup capacity, moving forward than someone like Campaign, for as great as Campaign has been for what they paid for him and what he is. So yeah, and I mean, I guess in my mind, I've almost kind of already penciled him in next year. But yeah, that's
interesting. And there's probably a greater conversation to be had about the value of in-season information gathering, which is like a very niche and detailed topic, and almost very so in the weeds that maybe we shouldn't go deep into it. But it's interesting to me. This coaching staff and maybe this front office don't value it as highly as other teams. Like we know, for example, in OKC, they have explicitly said, Dagnott has explicitly said, I am throwing lineups out there to see how they do. Now, he has a different kind of comfort in that they're like 100 games above anyone else in the Western Conference. There's like literally nothing to play for. There's no risk of anything. And so maybe you could, but I think that's truly a priority for them, is information gathering during the regular season. They use the 82 games for that purpose. Tibbs doesn't seem to care. Maybe the front office doesn't think he should care. Maybe they're right. And maybe they're right. I don't know if there's proof one way or the other, right? So we talk about this. I would like to see it. That's a personal preference, and I think it matters, but I could be wrong. And hell, this front office has done a really good job, and so is Tibbs. And so, like, I'm humble enough to say I might be wrong. That they,
can we agree on one thing?
They might know. They might know that Kolek is going to factor in next year. It's possible.
Can we agree on one thing? Your initial instincts in regards to one Landry Shamet were probably correct.
Oh,
and that
God.
It may be so, and that's the thing, is like, if you're going to make the argument that in these 28 games, these were 28 games to see what you had in Kolek, maybe it didn't need to come at the expense of Cameron Payne. Maybe it just needed to come at the expense of Landry Shamet. And
Precious Achiuwa, maybe?
Ooh, you'd be small, though. You'd be really small, right?
Okay, so be small. What's going to happen? What?
Yeah.
So let's see if we lose the minutes worse than we've lost the Precious at 4 minutes. Let's just see.
Should I
get much worse?
I was about to say, should I bring up Precious Achiuwa's on-off stats since?
Oh no, actually I don't know. I haven't looked that up. So tell me, because
I think I looked up earlier. I'm gonna check right now. I looked him up definitely in the 8 games since Brunson went down, but I'll do post. So yeah, we're gonna do this live on the air here. Last 8 games. Oh, Andrew likes what you're saying. He's the first time.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. So with Precious Achiuwa on the court in the last 8 games, the Knicks are, oh my God. So the defense has actually been good in his 87 minutes, giving up 93.5 points per 100, 89.8 offensive rating. I don't think that's great. It's less than ideal. And then when he is off the court, 116.6 offensive rating. So the Precious minutes in terms of offense have not gone exactly as you maybe would have wanted. And then since the All-Star break, we're going to push it a little bit further than that. So Precious Achiuwa on the court, they are getting outscored by 7.9 points per 100 possessions, 95.1 offensive rating, 103.0 defensive rating, but still 95.1 offensive rating with Precious in 240 minutes since the All-Star break. Without Precious on the court, they're about even. So yeah.
I would love to. I mean, you don't have to do this now, but we could do it later. To breaking it down by his minutes at the 4 specifically, as opposed to the 5.
That I actually don't know if there's a way for me to, because cleaning the glass has the positional thing, but
Well, you could you could filter for taking off all the other centers.
Oh yeah, you can. I think you could do
or
that.
putting
Right.
you can figure it out.
Well, look, I think we know it's been bad.
Yeah,
but
it's bad.
Listen, to your point. So what? You're small, but like, it would Payne plus Kolek plus Shamit plus. I mean, I don't know. You throw an OG out there with those, maybe. And then the whichever center. Like, could it be worse? Could it be worse?
No, and not for my own health and sanity.
I'm still not over what we witnessed in.
As I said in a recent grade book, I have nothing to say about Precious Achiuwa at the 4. Please let's not talk about it anymore. It is. I've said enough. It is what it is. It's dumb. It shouldn't exist. And I would be willing to experiment with other things that seem on its face to be compromising in other ways. But like, if you're not scoring 80 points per possession, even if you're giving up some more rebounds, you might score more and make up for it. Like, that's not a crazy theory. In fact, I think it's right. So I don't really understand that one. Find a way to play him, figure out the matchups. You can probably toggle enough where it's not too small. And even if there are 5-6 minutes a game where it's really small against the freaking Charlotte Hornets, I don't think you're going to live to regret it. Like, it's just, to me, like, easy stuff, Yeah.
We may hear about Precious Achiuwa again before the show is over. But first, unless you, maybe, who knows, maybe Benji's going to give Precious his game ball for, what would Precious Achiuwa get a game ball for? Some nice towel waving on the in the second half against the Wizards, because he didn't get off the bench.
Not even.
Game ball given to a player, coach, or entity who has done something noteworthy this week. Benji, thanks to Jeremy Cohen's wonderful
everything.
skills.
He's wonderful. He's just wonderful.
He's just wonderful. I went 3-1. He went 2-2. He won the week. So you get to give out the first game ball of the week.
Sheesh. I was going to give it to the Washington Wizards coaching staff, but I already made that joke, so I can't go there.
Fantastic pick.
I will give it to Mitchell Robinson. We haven't talked about Mitch.
Let's do it.
And we talked a lot about whether this all stuff matters. These games actually matter. We get so worked up game after game after game because we analyze these things so closely. And at the end of the day, what are the stakes here? Mitchell Robinson getting back to form, that is real stakes. And if anything matters without Jalen Brunson or over the course of these games, it's Mitchell Robinson finding himself again, figuring out where he works, figuring out what he does on the floor, especially offensively, what coverages you play defensively, etc. And I've loved what I've seen. I've loved what I've seen. It hasn't been perfect. Got blown by a few times against Washington. Not what you're used to seeing. But he's playmaking defensively at a high level again, forcing turnovers, blocking shots. And all of a sudden, I didn't check after this past game, but I put this out on the grade book as well. Like, you looked up after a couple of games where I felt like he wasn't offensive rebounding quite at his usual self. Looked up at the cleaning the glass, offensive rebounding percentages. Who's at the very top of the list? Two guys on the very top of the list who have been on the top of that list for like 4 years now. It's Steven Adams and it's Mitchell Robinson, tied at the top of the offensive rebounding percentage list. That is pretty amazing. That's tremendously valuable. As this team has made less shots, they've made fewer shots of late since really January 1st. They have not shot the ball as well. And to have someone cleaning that up for you and then creating threes out of it, by the way, is a really, really valuable to this team. So just loving what I'm seeing out of Mitch, plus the rare kind of random little back down layups he's making all of a sudden once in a while, like a couple dribbles. That's been fun. So yeah, good for Mitch. Great to see him back. Great to see him doing good stuff. He gets the game ball.
My daughter just walked in. Is telling me that she can't go to bed, but I'm gonna keep her around stick around because I'll need your help for the next segment. Not this one though. This segment's gonna be easy for me. One good center deserves another. So I'm gonna go Karl Anthony Towns. I have very much enjoyed the Karl Anthony Towns experience this year. Some guys aren't your cup of tea. Some guys are. He is my cup of tea. I acknowledge the flaws. They're very obvious. There's no getting around those flaws. But
like a spicy orange cinnamon tea.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. But I think he gives a crap. And I think the bad stuff is not because he is like lackadaisical or lazy. I just think that there are certain things for him that are just hard, and you are like, why is that hard? And it just is. it just is. I don't know if I'm making any sense here, whatever. But where I'm leading up to is this. I think with Jalen Brunson out, Karl-Anthony Towns has stepped up. And I just looked up his stats for these 4 games this week. 27.5 points, shooting 52% from the field, 42% from deep.
Jeez.
The volume's never going to be where we want it. It's 4.8 3-point attempts per game. Look, it is what it is. Getting to the line, 6 free throw attempts per game this week. Shooting him he's 5 for 6, 83.3%. The rebounding's gone down a little bit. And the assists are, again, always not quite where you think maybe they could be or should be. But he's a really good basketball player, and I've enjoyed watching him, so he gets my game ball.
It's just amazing because I feel like the efficiency has suffered. I even said earlier, I think that the efficiency has suffered since Brunson's been out. I haven't looked at the whole body of work, but maybe it hasn't because you just listed the stats over the last 4 games. I feel like he's working a lot harder, but he's obviously making it work. Impressive. That's really impressive.
I don't think there's I don't think he's a good enough free throw shooter, and I don't think there's enough games left to make up the difference. But he's the 50-40-90 possibility. Like, he's going to get there for field goal attempts, for field goal percentage, and 3-point percentage. He's at 83.4% for free throws. So it's too far. It's too high a hill to climb. But man, the fact that we could have a potential 50-40-90 conversation about this guy and it's late March is wild to me.
It is.
Wild mean good or bad?
Wild. What does wild mean good or bad? Good. In this context, it means good.
Gosh, she's sharp. God, it shouldn't mean good, but it does. It's kind of like gross or nasty, sometimes meaning good.
Yeah, or certain 4-letter words that
I believe nice. I believe nice in Old English used to mean bad. Was a bad adjective.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up.
That's some new
look, so many nuggets coming out of this pod. Yeah, it's the same stuff. Amazing offensive player.
Yeah.
Stepped up. I think is really the only offensive player that really stepped up since Brunson's been down. Just like the frustrating things are the frustrating things. But expecting him to fix them this late in his career is probably silly. The Mamu pick and pop stuff in the second half was crazy. Some of the drop defense against Charlotte was crazy with the hands down, and the technique is terrible.
Yep.
It just is what it is. I feel a need to say it because he hasn't been perfect, and he's not perfect, and he's flawed, and he is who he is. But he deserves a game ball because he has played beautiful offensive basketball and continues to do so.
And to the extent you care about these sorts of numbers, if you look at cleaning the glass, the most positively impactful guy in terms of on-off is Karl-Anthony Towns at this point in the season. So you might need something. Okay. Detention given to someone who needs to sit down and think about what they have done for a while.
Detention is something to do with school. Why are you talking about?
Because it's Knicks Film School. That's the bit. That's the gimmick. You never connected that before?
Wild
thing. Anyway, this is where I need your help. So I have two choices here for my detention. We have to put someone in detention who didn't do as well as they needed to do this week. So I could either put Tom Thibodeau. I'm gonna save some choices for you, Benji. I could put Tom Thibodeau as the coach of the Knicks in detention for not playing a particular young player as much as many fans wanted him to play that young player. Or I could put myself in detention for defending Tom Thibodeau for said decision. For the decision to not play the guy. So should I put the coach who did the thing in detention, or should I put myself in detention for agreeing with the coach in making a poor decision?
2 questions.
Oh, goodness.
Is the player bad or
he's good? No, he's good. He's a good player.
Or okay, the other question is it correct? Wait, is the coach doing the correct thing and the fans are doing the wrong thing, or is it just
it's a you know what?
Right, Macri. She is a Macri after all.
It's a
The coach is
fantastic
right.
question. It's a fantastic question, Scarlett. Right. Unfortunately, it is impossible for us sitting here with the limited evidence and knowledge that we have to know that answer with any amount of certainty. So we can only guess. But the player played in the game on Saturday night and did look very good. So the evidence would suggest that maybe the coach was not right in keeping the player out of the game.
The coach is not right.
So then who should go in detention, the coach or me for defending the coach? I need an answer. This is live.
The coach.
The coach. All right, there you go. From the mouths of babes. Tom Thibodeau is going to go in detention this week. By the way, Tom Thibodeau gotten a lot of grief from a lot of fans this year. Is 4 wins or 5 wins? No, 5 wins away from passing Pat Riley for 4th on the all-time coaching register with the Knicks.
You got 7 messages
Wow.
by the same person.
Yeah, it's Andrew. He's blowing up my phone. He does that sometimes. Put Daddy in detention. Thank you, Andrew.
That's great, Scarlett. Good work.
No.
Anything from you, Benji, on Tibbs or me?
Oh, on that, no, we talked about it already. I think it is what it is. But I'll get to my detention.
Go for it.
Precious Achiuwa, dog, my man. You're a fringe NBA player. Fringe. Like, no one wanted you. You were available. The Knicks didn't bring you back for a long time this offseason. Like, you are not entitled to minutes. You are not deserved of minutes at the 4 for anybody.
Deserved.
You have gotten more rope than I can fathom this season. And for you to repay that, because we talk about the minutes themselves, and we talk about the coach giving him the minutes. But as you know, and I say this all the time, players have agency. Fans don't like to think about it that way. They think that the players are these entities that exist and are X good, and coach puts them in situations that they perform X good because they were put in that. That's not how it works. Players have agency. Even when Precious Achiuwa plays at the 4, which is ill-befitting of him. Shouldn't do it. But when he is put at the 4, he has agency to do well. He can do better. He can make up for the lack of shooting. He can do things to make it work better. And his lack of energy is insane to me. Like, again, a fringe player in the league who has not been able to catch on anywhere and could have been, I don't know where he would have signed this season if the Knicks not brought him back. You have to play every minute like it is your last minute. That is like 101 for fringe NBA players. You come in, and I give Landry Shamet credit for this because I don't think he's good, but he comes in and he plays as hard as he possibly can every minute he gets.
Yeah.
Campaign, who's I think more than a fringe NBA player, but every minute is as hard as he can. There are flaws, but you are a non-offensive entity who prides himself and has called himself this season an elite defensive player. You've said that on the record. Where is that? Like, where has that been? Where's the constant energy? Like, what am I missing here? How is this the performance? It's pathetic. And yes, Tibbs should punish him for it. Enough is enough. So it goes on the coach. The player himself should be ashamed of himself. That is not a requisite effort for a guy of your caliber who brings to the table what you bring to the table. It has to be constant energy defensively. It has to be constant effort on every single defensive possession. You miss as many layups as you want. Like that, okay, it is what it is. You're not a good offensive player. I understand. Man, like the defense has to be there. You can't be falling asleep on closeouts. The first 3 Mamu threes in the first half were not on Karl Anthony Towns. They were on Precious Achiuwa. Falling asleep. Can't happen. So, I don't know, man. It's super disappointing. And he did that last season. That was him last season. He came in and he played his butt off every minute he was out there. And I just don't know where that's gone. And it's disappointing.
I shouldn't have cut you off. Anything else?
That's it. Sorry.
No, please, no apologies necessary for that. I just looked it up. Cleaning the glass last season, Precious at the 4, 1,194 possessions, plus 1.6 with a league average defense and 117 points per 100 possessions. good for the 64th percentile league wide. And it wasn't because they shot the ball well.
Offensive rebounding.
As will surprise nobody, but they grabbed 33.5% of their misses, which is a 97th percentile number. And we know, because we both watched it, that was a lot because Precious Achiuwa went out there and he threw himself around and got himself involved one way or another. And the only other thing I'll say, look, I was not always the biggest fan of Obi Toppin as a basketball player. And it's because I thought there was a ceiling there based on some of the things that he could not do. I think we have enough evidence to know now that Obi Toppin probably wasn't always thrilled with how he was being used in this on this roster, and thought that maybe he was deserving of more, in whether it be more minutes or more shots or more a different kind of usage. I'd say what you want about Obi Toppin. I can't remember a time where Obi Toppin ever went out there on the floor and dogged it or gave anything less than what he needed to do to max out his version of like the best he could be, you know? And for Precious now, he's been here for a little bit more than a year. And again, you can't, like, Obi Toppin went months at a time without ever playing more than a dozen minutes in a game. Precious Achiuwa had a 3-week stretch last year where he averaged 40 minutes. He could advertise, like, when would he else have gotten that opportunity? And not for nothing, he's gotten an opportunity this year since he came back. Maybe, and I don't know what he thinks he is deserving of. It is, it's staggering. It's staggering.
I don't know much to add. It's been disappointing because he has what to offer. Even at these stupid minutes at the 4, he has what to offer. As you gave the evidence, and the lack of contribution, it's hurt this team. It's actually hurt this team. It's a shame.
Yeah, I read the numbers before. They stink when he's on the court. So yeah, and again, like you said, coach is not doing anybody any favors, but as you said, players have agency. Okay. Predictions. We finish up as we always do by predicting the week ahead. Benji gets to go first. The games this week. Thank God Mark had him at the ready because I was not going to remember this off the top of my head. Interesting week because we got Dallas Mavericks on Tuesday night. So Anthony Davis, as of right now, we should note, has been upgraded to doubtful for that game. Of course, Anthony Davis would come back, against the
he ain't playing.
I don't think he is either. I would frankly be a little surprised if he played again this season, but whatever. He's doubtful. Then it's a back-to-back. So second night of the back-to-back. Again, you're home, so you don't have to travel. Thank goodness. It is against the Los Angeles Clippers. Then you got a day off and you face the Bucks on Friday in what, that could be a significant game, although the Knicks have already won the season series against Milwaukee. And then a rematch against the yes, I will. Thank you, Mark. A rematch on Sunday against the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers are back to their winning ways of late. Note that there is another watch party on Friday night against the Milwaukee Bucks. So again, I think that has a chance to be a fairly notable game. So if you are in the New York City area and you want to come check out a good what should hopefully be a good game, although the Knicks will be without their Milwaukee kryptonite. No Jalen Brunson, I would assume, for that game. Should still be a fun one. So that's going to be, again, at T-Squared Social, of course, on this upcoming Friday, March 28th. So you pick first here.
Oof.
Tough one.
Yeah.
Although I think there's an obvious way to go.
I'm going to take 1 and 3.
Wow. I didn't think you were going to go that way.
Yeah.
Not feeling so confident. Huh?
They're not playing well. They're not playing well.
No.
They didn't play well again. They're not playing well. They don't have Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
And the 3 teams, Dallas, they should win. But then it's 3 teams that are, to some degree or another, playing for something and care and are healthy for the most part. I think Portland in particular is like the scariest type of team to play this time of year because they're not tanking and they have an emerging star. Like Denny Avdija is playing like a star. Yeah. And they have been really good, and they gave the Knicks all they could handle last game. The Clippers trying to fight for the crazy Western Conference between 3 and 8 or whatever it is, and trying to find their footing there and stay out of the play-in. And Milwaukee as well. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they're playing very well. So I'm going to take 1-3.
I thought you would go 2-2. I would have gone 2-2 in a heartbeat. But I respect the commitment to what we are seeing, and I respect the commitment to the evidence, because the evidence of late has not been great. I very much hope they could get through this week 2-2. I think that would.
Yeah, me too. I hope I wasn't trying to be provocative.
No, listen,
Trying to stir the pot. I just did. Washington give you like happy vibes? Like that was crazy.
No, I mean,
how many teams has Washington had gone on a run like that against this season? I wonder.
I mean, look, the Wizards recently, I don't know if they had a few more of their guys, but they beat the Nuggets and the Pistons in back-to-back games on the road. So it's not like they are incapable of.
It's fair point.
Of doing anything. But like when the Knicks went up by whatever the ungodly amount of points they went up in the first half, like, yes, they were hitting shots. That the Wizards' performance in that first half was as poor as any team I think that we've seen the Knicks play this year. It was up there. I mean, maybe there's one or two I'm forgetting.
If I took 2-2, would you have taken 3-1 or 1-3?
That's a great question. It would have been tough. I think it would have been a toss-up for me. I honestly am not sure. Maybe I would have talked myself into 3-1, but that would have been silly. No, you know what? No, I wouldn't have. And I would have taken 1-3. Here's why. I don't think they're going to beat the Bucks. I think the reason they beat the Bucks is because of Jalen Brunson, and Jalen Brunson's not playing the basketball game. So
kills them. Brunson kills them.
So if I don't think they're going to beat the Bucks, that means I think they would have to go undefeated in all 3 other games, and I think they could lose all 3. And effectively all 4. Do I think they will lose all 4? No, and I really do believe they'll go 2-2. I think they will find a way to go 2-2. But the Dallas game, man, it's a big game. Coming off 2 days off.
This also has to do with my Jonte Porter effort to tank Jeremy's record. So,
I mean, thank goodness for that. Listen, don't let PJ Washington get going from deep. That's all I have to say about that. Benji, anything else from you before we get out of here?
No, nothing else from me. Give us a try getting up to the playoffs. Brunson's here on Patreon. I think it'll be worth your while. DJ and I are putting in a lot of work on it and breaking down the team. Every detail, every single leaf to be turned is being turned over to analyze this team on that tier. So now's the time. Now's the time to sign up.
The grade books that you are putting out, there's a half a dozen things that I genuinely find myself being like, I had not thought of that. And all I do is think about this fucking team. And yet every time you write a grade book, there's so many things in there that I'm like, that's a great freaking point. In particular, your tip section after the Charlotte and Spurs games, because it was extraordinarily fair. And if anything, you were being a little kind, if anything.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks. Yeah, working on them, and I hope they're a good addition to the discourse out there. So yeah, sign up if you haven't.
Yes, just go to Patreon or Google Knicks Film School Patreon. Very easy to find. And then, like we said, is the Brunson tier will cost you less than the price of a sandwich, every month. So I promise you it's worth it. Okay, Benji, thank you for stepping into Jeremy's shoes this week. Thank you, Mark, for being on the 1s and 2s for this episode, and thank you, everybody out there, for checking out another edition of the Knicks Film School Podcast. Don't forget to do all the things that you do to support your favorite content, whether it be subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you're subscribed, obviously, to the podcast, a review, a rating, anything you could do. We appreciate that stuff. Very excited for a interview that I am recording tomorrow morning to drop. Stay tuned for that.
Ooh.
Will be fun. Returning guest who has something notable going on tomorrow, so excited to talk to him. And then all the post games and other fun stuff this week. So stay tuned, and we will talk to you soon. Peace out.
Peace.